everyone, it's Sarah, and today I am back to do another subscriber requested video. So I was recently asked to talk about icy cold fragrances for this super hot weather that we are having. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but holy cow, in the South. It's weird because temperature wise, it's not as hot as it usually is. It's usually just like in the solid 90s for 2 months. Like July and August is just like solid 90s, but it's not, we've been getting up in the 90s, but not like, I don't know, not like normal. It's the humidity that has been out of hand this year. It's been kind of a wet summer, and so it's one of those situations where you like walk outside, and as soon as you walk outside, you just immediately start sweating because it's so darn humid. So these are perfect fragrances for weather like that, especially if you put any of these in the refrigerator. It would be just like an icy blast of perfume. Thankfully, usually when it gets this hot, when it's like this muggy out, it's hard for me to even wear perfume. Thankfully, that hasn't been the case this year. So, but anyways, I'm going to stop chattering and jump right in because as always, I've got a ton of fragrances here in front of me. It's funny because when I decided to do this video, I was like, I usually go for warm, cozy fragrances no matter what season it is. So I don't feel like I'm gonna have a ton of cold fragrances, but then when I got to looking in my collection, I actually have a lot more than I had even thought. So anyways, yeah, I'm gonna jump right in. The first one that I'm going to talk about, sadly, this one has been discontinued. You can still find it on the gray market though, or on like selling platforms, Mercari, eBay. This is Viktor and Rolf Lavender Illusion from the Magic Collection. So this is like a lavender and lime fragrance, and the lime is very, very prominent, and it is a very, very cold citrusy lime. And lavender can be warm depending on what notes it's paired with. Like if you pair lavender with vanilla, it can be really warm, but lavender paired with lime, a citrus, makes the lavender really cold as well. So it's like this, it's a very, very cold fragrance. It's very cold lavender and lime. It's very, very fresh. It's aromatic because of the lavender. It's a very aromatic lavender and a very bright, fresh citric lime. It's a really, really cold fragrance. It's very, very uplifting. This is one that, again, if you put this in the refrigerator, this would be like an icy blast of cold spraying it on because it's such a cold fragrance. So anyways, that is Viktor and Rolf Lavender Illusion from the Magic Collection. I never know how to say that. Do I say Viktor and Rolf Magic, Lavender Illusion? I usually just say the way I say it because it is from the Magic Collection. But anyways, there's that one. Next, this is a fragrance that I think is the biggest underrated gem ever. Nobody ever talks about this perfume, and it deserves so much more love than it gets. This is Salvador Dali Eau de Ruby Lips. So this is such a beautiful fragrance. It's like a sweet, cold, kind of fruity floral. This is pretty spot on for bond number 9, the scent of peace. It's really, really close. In fact, darn, I packed up all my samples. I do have a sample of the scent of peace. I'm gonna do an Is It a Dupe video between this and a scent of peace whenever we get settled. Unfortunately, all my samples are in storage right now, so I'll have to wait. But yeah, I will at some point do that because it's really, really close. It's very similar. But this is really beautiful. It's like it's a light, slightly sweet, kind of fruity floral. It's just a really pleasant fragrance, but it's a very cold fragrance. This isn't like a warm fragrance at all. It even on the paper, it smells cold. It's really beautiful. It's very uplifting, very refreshing. It's soft and mild, so it's like perfect in the heat. It's not gonna choke you out, but very light and cold, like a cold fruity floral. It's really beautiful. If you like bond number 9, the scent of peace, I think you would really like this. yeah, I think they're really, really similar. I need to get my sample so that I can, either that or I'll just order another one so that I can do that. But yeah, that is Salvador Dali Eau de Ruby Lips. Beautiful. Next, we have a really cold iris perfume. In fact, this is such a cold iris, I don't wear this very often because usually when I want to wear an iris perfume, I want the like cozy powderiness of it. And this one is actually quite cold. This is Viktoria Minya Hedonist Iris. And oh, it's a beautiful iris, but it's like a pretty stark cold iris, and it's not very powdery at all either. It's not like a powdery makeup-y iris at all. This is like a fresh, it's like a light, fresh, almost slightly woody, like it's got a very light wood in the base, but very light, very fresh, very stark, very cold smelling iris. Perfect for this time of year. This is a perfect iris for the heat. It's very fresh smelling. Really beautiful, almost astringent smelling. It's very fresh. So yeah, really beautiful, light, not at all sweet, and really not powdery at all either. Very cold iris, which I almost never reach for it just because I'm usually never looking for a cold iris. But yeah, I'll have to go through some of this summer because this is the perfect weather for it. So anyways, that is Viktoria Minya Hedonist Iris. Next, this is probably, and I say this about this fragrance literally every single time I talk about this. This is DKNY Women, and this is probably, it's funny because I think people think this is called Woman, and it's not. It's Women because it's got M-E-N at the end. So it's DKNY Women. This is probably the coldest fragrance that I've got in my collection. Between the greenness of the tomato leaves and all of the citrus in the top, and I want to say, this smells like grapefruit to me, but I want to say it doesn't even have grapefruit in it, but it's a very, very cold, like icy cold citrus and green tomato leaf perfume. And it is probably the coldest perfume I've got in my collection. If you stored this in the refrigerator, now this is an original formulation bottle. This bottle is probably from the year 2000. I've heard that the reformulated version is not very good. I need to pick up a bottle of the reformulated version so I can test them side by side. I'm dying to know what the reformulation smells like. I'm hoping that they didn't completely butcher it. But I can also see, because a lot of people say they don't like this perfume and they're thinking it's because it's reformulated, but I'm thinking they probably just don't like it because this perfume has the strongest tomato leaf note in it, like green tomato leaf note in it that I've ever smelled in any fragrance ever. It's very, very tomato leaf forward. And that could be why people don't like it. But yeah, I love it. It's very, very fresh, very green, very citric, and icy cold. Coldest fragrance I've got in my collection, hands down. So anyways, that is DKNY Women. Okay, next I've got a Kate Spade fragrance. This is Kate Spade Walk on Air. So this has got some interesting notes in it. It's got some interesting like lily notes. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's like, starts with a C. It's like Trillium Lily or I don't know. You'll see it on the screen. I'm probably getting it completely wrong. But they're more kind of like dry green florals rather than sweet florals, and this isn't a sweet fragrance at all. I get kind of cucumber vibes from it, but it doesn't have any cucumber in it. It's just a combination of the flowers, and I think it's got some citruses in the top, but that make it very dry and cold and kind of slightly green smelling. It's really, really fresh, but it's a very cold fragrance. And even when you wear it, there's a constant freshness coming from this one. It's not one that ever really, well, in my experience, it's not one that ever really warms up on your skin. There's always this kind of fresh, dry coolness about it. and it's really, really wonderful for the heat. It's like perfect in really, really high heat because it smells really nice. You smell clean, and it's hard to explain this one. You smell clean, but you don't smell overly floral or sweet. It's just very clean and fresh. It's a really, really nice fragrance, and it's a very cool smelling fragrance. So anyways, that is Kate Spade Walk on Air. Next, I've got a couple of Hermes fragrances. These are both pretty cold smelling fragrances. The first one I've got here is called Muguet Porcelain, and this is a very cold, not at all sweet Lily of the Valley fragrance. This one I could see people not liking because it's very, very cold. It's like the Lily of the Valley as well as the stems. It's like again, it's almost got that astringent quality. It's very, very photorealistic. It's like a fresh picked Lily of the Valley, and the stems, and maybe even a little bit of the earth that came up with at the bottom of the flowers. Yeah, it's very astringent smelling. It's not at all sweet. This is one that smells, this one's really hard for me to explain, but it's very, very cold smelling. It's a very astringent, cold floral. Gosh, if you guys took a shot for every time I said cold, you would be lit by the end of this, but yeah, that's all I can really say about it. It's not at all sweet. It's a little bit green. It's astringent smelling, and it's a very cold Lily of the Valley fragrance, which makes me wonder if that's why it's called Muguet Porcelain. Maybe the porcelain part of it is alluding to the coolness of it, because it is a very, very cold fragrance. And this is another one that even on skin, this never warms up. Like it almost kind of sits on top of the skin and it stays cold. It's hard for me to explain. And the Kate Spade Walk on Air is like that on me as well. They're just kind of their own things. They don't mesh with your body at all. I know that sounds really weird, but that's just my experience with them. So anyways, that is Muguet Porcelain. And then another fragrance that is very much like that as well is this one here. This is Hermes Un Jardin on Mediterranee, or Mediterranee. This is a very cold smelling, kind of slightly spiced, clean, fresh, aquatic scent, but without smelling like the ocean. It's more of like a salty, this is another one that's hard to explain. This one you almost get like salty ocean beating up against cold rocks. It's very fresh. You can smell like the fresh dampness in the air. It's gray out, and you almost really do get that kind of cold stone. You can almost smell the cold stone in it, really. And you can smell the cold damp air as well, and the gray sky. This one is very, very unisex. Like, I don't feel like it leans too masculine or too feminine. It's kind of perfectly in the middle, but very cold. If you put this in the refrigerator, it would be like spraying on a cold, wet ocean day. Seriously, I never talk about this perfume, and I very rarely pull it to wear it because it is such a cold perfume. So anyways, that is Un Jardin on Mediterranee. Next we have, this is a classic, and this is like a citrusy barbershop fragrance, and it is an incredibly cold fragrance. This is 4711 Nouveau Cologne. I love this perfume. I used to wear the heck out of this. Like maybe 3 years ago, I became obsessed with this, and I put a huge dent in it because I wore it like 3 times a week for months on end, and because it was like such a hot summer that year. But this is just a really beautiful, bright, fresh, citrusy barbershop cologne type scent. This one does lean just slightly masculine, but it's so fresh smelling. It doesn't smell like a men's cologne or anything. But I love this. This is an icy, fresh, citrusy perfume. One of you, I need to send out a decant of this because yeah, my beautiful friend is looking for a good replacement for Guerlain Imperial. I can't remember I think it's just Imperial. And this might be a really good option. And this one lasts a lot longer than the Guerlain as well. So yeah, I'll have to send out a decant, see if she ends up liking that. But anyways, yeah, really beautiful, icy, cold barbershop citrus, super fresh, slightly sweet, but really, really uplifting and refreshing and cold. That is 4711 Nouveau Cologne. It's another one, if you put it in the refrigerator, it would be like a blast of icy lemon. And this next one would also be the same. This is Ellen Tracy Bronze, and in fact, the friend that I said that I need to send a decant of this to, she sent me this bottle of perfume because it didn't work for her. She didn't love it. To me though, this is like an icy lemon perfume. It's got like a lemonade note in it. Yes, it's got a lemonade note in it. There is this kind of warmth to this perfume, but the lemon in this is so cold and icy. That's really all you get. And it doesn't warm up at all until it starts to dry down on your skin. But this is one of those that like when you first spray it on, it's just a blast of icy lemonade. But I will say this does have some warmth to it when it dries down on your skin. It's got this beautiful kind of skin-like fuzziness almost that is just really, really beautiful when it dries down. It's got some spices in it as well, if I remember correctly. But for me, this is like it's a very icy, like lemonade kind of fragrance. It's really inexpensive too. And I really, really love this perfume. So anyways, that is Ellen Tracy Bronze. This next one, it's funny because this is a fragrance that I don't reach for that often. And when I thought about it, I was like, I don't reach for it often because it never really warms up on my skin. It is such a cold fragrance. That fragrance is this one here. This is Miss Dior Blooming Bouquet. I just have this little roller pearl of it, but this for me is a very cold floral. This is another one that never really warms up on my skin. It just kind of stays cold. And it's funny because somebody said that this reminded them of Elizabeth Arden's Sunflowers, and it does, just a touch. Yeah, it definitely does have that sunflowers smell about it. It's definitely not a smell alike or anything. It doesn't smell just like sunflowers, but it is kind of similar. It's got that, I don't want to say aquatic. Sunflowers does have this kind of weird aquatic thing going on. This one doesn't have that aquatic thing going, but I don't know. It's just like this kind of cool floral. I don't want to say it's icy cold. It's not icy cold. It's definitely not as cold as either of the previous ones, really any of the ones that I've talked about yet. But this is one that just never really warms up on my skin. It just kind of stays this slightly sweet, kind of cold green leaning floral. It's really pretty. I would actually enjoy a full bottle of this, I think. But yeah, I don't reach for it often because it's a pretty cold fragrance. So anyways, that is Miss Dior Blooming Bouquet. Next is a Zara fragrance, and this is to me, this is a very cold perfume. This is a dupe for Chanel Chance Eau Fraiche as well. This is Zara Apple Juice, and they're not like one for one. I don't want to say it's like a one for one dupe for Eau Fraiche, but it's so similar. You will definitely have the same kind of experience with this one. My sprayer is so messed up on this. Yeah, and this is another one. This is an icy cold, and it does warm up a little bit as it dries down on the skin. But when you first spray this, it's definitely like icy cold citruses, and and it doesn't really start to warm up at all until it dries down on your skin. And then you get kind of a very slight warmth from the woods in the base. But this one is pretty cold, and this one, the apple juice, is even colder smelling than Eau Fraiche. Eau Fraiche warms up a little bit more, which is why I chose apple juice rather than Eau Fraiche, even though I think that both of them, there we are with our right on cue, our afternoon thunderstorm. But yeah, this one, the Chanel Eau Fraiche has more woods in the base and it warms up a little bit more. This one doesn't have all of the notes that Eau Fraiche has, so this one stays much cooler. And it really does stay pretty cool on the skin throughout the entire wear. It's also quite linear, so what you get when you first spray it is kind of what you're gonna have when it dries down. But yeah, just a really pretty, like cool, I don't wanna say ice cold, but cool citrus fragrance. It's really nice. This is another one, if you kept it in the refrigerator, it would just be so like refreshing. And it's got a really nice misty sprayer on it too. So if you put this in the refrigerator and then misted it on yourself, like on a really hot day, it would be so incredibly refreshing and nice. So anyways, that is Zara Apple Juice. This next one, this is such an ice cold, and it's not even a citrus perfume, it's a fruit that I don't have any experience with, and some of you do, but to me, it smells ice cold. This is probably my second like iciest smelling fragrance in my collection. This is Paradiso from the Maker, and oh my gosh, it's so like tart and uplifting, and like it's just such a shock to your nose. It's like such a tart fruit. It's incredibly cold smelling. Now this one also has some spices in it, so as it kind of dries down on your skin, you get a little bit of warmth. But that icy, cold mangosteen never goes away. Like, it is the heart of the perfume from the time you spray it on until the deep dry down. It is always there. It is the most prominent note, and it is an icy, cold note. It's very, very fresh and uplifting, like invigorating is the best word for it, invigorating. It's beautiful. I think aside from DKNY Women, I think this is the second most like icy cold perfume in my collection. It is beautiful, and this is definitely the longest lasting perfume on this list. This thing is a beast. You're gonna get 8, 10, 12 hours out of this easily, and it's amazing. So anyways, that is Paradiso from the Maker. This next one, this is such an oldie, but such a goodie. This is Issey Miyake L'eau de Issey. This is the Eau de Toilette formulation. This takes me straight back to the 90s. This is a beautiful, bright, fresh, aquatic floral. Oh, it's beautiful. I just love this perfume. It's very, very cold smelling. There's nothing warm about this at all. It's another one of those that it never warms up on your skin either. It's always a cold smelling fragrance. It's also another pretty linear fragrance. It smells pretty much the same when you put it on as to when it dries down. But it is such a beautiful, like cold, aquatic floral. I love it so much. Another great perfume that would be an alternative to this is Guerlain's Layla. Beautiful fragrance as well. That one leans a little bit more floral, and it has a touch of greenness to it, whereas this one's a little bit sweeter and is a little bit more aquatic, but they're really very similar. But yeah, I absolutely love it. And another one that is another oldie but a goodie, but a very cold fragrance is Calvin Klein Escape. I love this perfume. This thing has a million notes in it. It's one of those kind of kitchen sink fragrances where it's just got a bazillion notes, but it's so beautiful. It's another like kind of cool smelling, slightly aquatic floral. I love it. I love it so much. But this is another one. It never really warms up on your skin. It always kind of, that kind of cool aquatic floral just hangs around. It's like the heart of the perfume, and it just kind of sits on your skin. I love it. I love this perfume. This, gosh, it takes me straight back to being like 12 years old. It's wild. So anyways, that is Calvin Klein Escape. Next, we have got a Guerlain fragrance. This is such an uplifting perfume. This is another one. If you put this thing in the refrigerator and let it get cold, it would be such a cold, icy blast. And it's another one that has one of those beautiful fine mist sprayers, so it would just be so refreshing. This is Aqua Allegoria Limon Verde. This is, oh my gosh, this is like such a tart, very, very, like almost not sweet at all lime fragrance. It's like a very almost photorealistic lime, but it's got just a little bit of something that softens it. So it's not like, you know, so it's not so tart that it's unwearable, but it's incredible. It's this really beautiful, like soft, tart, fresh lime fragrance. It's another one that you can describe as being like super invigorating. Again, I feel like if you sprayed this on, if it were cold, it would just be like, wow, a blast of icy lime. So anyways, that is Aqua Allegoria Limon Verde. And then last but not least is a rose fragrance. This is such an icy rose and it's so beautiful. This is Tocca Isabel. Oh my gosh. It's very slightly sweet, but what makes this icy is it's got a sangria note in it, and so it's kind of got that like icy booze. I mean, you could picture like a big pitcher of icy sangria sitting on the table, and you've got like a bouquet of roses on each side. That's what this reminds me of. It's a very cool, well, cold. I mean, this is icy. It's like an icy cold, boozy rose fragrance. It's so beautiful. This is a fragrance that I blind bought this. I just found it at TJ Maxx and I was like, yeah, what the heck, it's a rose, I'll buy it. I didn't realize just how beautiful this one is and how unique it is. I don't have another rose in my collection quite like this. Nor do I have another, well, I think, I do think Trussardi Delicate Rose is a little bit of a colder rose as well, but like nothing compared to this. This is like an icy, cold, fresh, uplifting rose. Very, very refreshing. It's another one, if you put this in the refrigerator, it would just be, and it's another one that's got a beautiful mist. So it would just be this beautiful, like icy, boozy, cold rose. I just love it. So anyways, that is Tocca Isabel. Okay, I did skip one. So no, last but not least is this one here. This is Commodity Rain. This is like a wet green garden. It's a super watery green. I don't even want to say floral because it smells like sweet greens. It's very, very slightly sweet, almost not sweet at all. But it's a cold fragrance. This reminds me of like a cold winter day and it just rained and you're walking through the grass and I don't know, or you're walking through like a wet garden, like on a cold, rainy day. That's what it reminds me of. It's really beautiful. It's definitely a cold fragrance. There's nothing warm about this at all. It's very, very refreshing. And this would be great to put in the refrigerator as well. This one's great because it's super cold smelling without being citrusy, or without being, well, really without being citrusy. So it's quite different. It's like a cold green perfume and it's really beautiful. So anyways, that is Commodity Rain. And now we are finally done. I can't believe I almost skipped that one. I do hope that you all enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.